Welcome back to the Real Life Theology podcast. This is part 4 of our 4-part series on discipling people into emotional and spiritual health. If you haven't listened to the other 3 parts, I highly encourage you to go back and listen. We started by talking about foundations of discipling for emotional and spiritual health. Then we talked about understanding and identifying stages of maturity, pathways to growth and healing. And today's final episode is about implementing change, and we feature a Q&A portion for this episode. Here's the episode.
Let's talk about a pathway. This is the big picture for the church. This won't take long, by the way. What do you do now when it comes to what does this look like in our own bodies, in our own church congregations, in our bodies? First one, cover the process in prayer. I talked about that one. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives, generously to all without finding fault. It will be given to you. The other one is establishing a long-term vision for the church. This is important. It's going to take a while. It needs to be especially, let me just say this. If you're turning the ship, that's not a, what'd you say? It's a cruise ship? Sometimes it's like one of those barges. I mean, it's just, this is going to take a while, especially churches generally have a DNA. Like they have a DNA of their church, right? So when DNA is established, changing DNA, is that just, we're just going to change it? Or, this is going to happen. No, we've got some things that are deep in our church, and so now it's going to take some time. The scoreboard, look at this quote from Scazzaro. The scoreboard for success changes from counting numbers, how many attend, participate, give, and serve, to measuring deep transformation and a long range of vision for multiplying disciples who make disciples. That's big time, right?
That's from emotionally healthy discipleship.
That's from emotionally healthy discipleship, right? Okay, here's one that people don't like to hear, but it's real. Embrace a realistic time frame. Long-term vision, 7 to 10 years to integrate. Wow. Everybody hear that? The journey with Jesus is slow and patience is needed. Think about how emotional and spiritual health has to be integrated into every aspect of the church and the people. That's theology, leadership, community, marriages, etc. By the way, 7 to 10 years, that's okay. That's what we should say. That's okay. By the way, I have more stories, but I was a part of a ministry when I was in Uganda where we were turning a ship, and it was a painful process. And someone came to me to visit who ended up joining our team, and he got the whole picture of what was going on. And we were sitting in my office one day, and he said, what you're doing, because we wanted to shift from an educational model to a relational life-on-life disciple-making model in Uganda. And what he said was to me, he said, we're sitting in the office, and he just looked at me straight in the face. He said, it'd be a lot easier for you to just start a new mission here. And I was like, yeah. And one of the reasons he said that is because I had moved to Uganda, and I was kind of new on the field, but because of a certain chain of events, I ended up being the senior most person on that team. And he was basically saying, hey, you could still pull the ripcord, man, and go start another one. And when I prayed about that, and this is what I mean by we've got to pray about those things. When I prayed about that, the answer I got back was, this is my bride. Ugh. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, so what is it? So I can leave? And it was like, no. That's not why I've called you into this. So I honestly, wherever we are and wherever God has you right now, when it comes to turning a ship or seeing the DNA change, it may be that you are right where you are because you're supposed to be there for this very reason in this season. And if you're going to leave, cover that with prayer and have peace in that situation. Do not do that because you think it'd be easier. But have peace in that. Because if you leave without peace, and then we ask God, would you please bless that? We're going to struggle with that decision. So 7 to 10 years, right? Also, the shift happens from the shift happens. The shift happens from the inside out. Good grief. Wow. Anyway, nice graphic from Scazzaro about that one, but it just basically shows this starts with you. That's what we talked about. Then it goes to your team. Then it goes to your church. And then it goes out to the world. That is how the growth happens. So, that being said, there's resources here. The book on the end. This book on the end, Real Life Discipleship by Jim Putman, talks about, it's really practical for how do you take a church that's an educational model to a life-on-life disciple-making model. And it even, like Jim has helped develop that picture, that graph of like spiritually dead to spiritual parent and grandparent. And then Disciple Shift is Bobby and Jim working together to expand on that. Deeper Walk and Breakthrough are 2 books by Marcus where it talks about some of these principles that we've, as far as the expounding upon the spiritually healthy, emotionally healthy person. Marcus does a really great job in describing what some of the problems have been in the church in the past, and then how can we move past those with very practical examples on how to do that. My opinion about how Marcus writes is he's helping the stuck get unstuck, and it's really valuable. And of course,
it's very readable. So you can do it with somebody that may not be a big reader, may not be somebody that's deep, super deep theologically.
Yeah. And then, of course, with emotionally healthy discipleship, Peter Scazzaro, we just, you guys took that survey and we also just went through some of those principles. But again, foundational principles that are so important. One thing I'd like to say as far as the end of what we've been presenting, and then we can take some questions, but what I would say about this is, and this is what we've learned, the content and listening to, here's all the struggles, here are the ways that we want to help people grow. This should happen in a very, it's an intentional way. We're strategic in that we do it, but we're being led by the Holy Spirit and all of that. The way that works, we've talked about a lot of things and the way that it works and the way that we've seen it work is what Michelle started with. She said, just start. Just start doing it. Meet with someone and start implementing these things and watch it happen. Some of you have already done that. So we're talking to people who do it already. Some of you are saying, like, I would like more information. I need to know how to do that. But just begin.
And if you have begun, it may be time to set somebody else up to do it. Become the grandparent.
Yeah. So I say all that to say that I've been to conferences before where I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose. Yeah. And, we just spent, 3 hours with you guys shooting a lot of information at you and telling stories to you about all these things that have happened. But the beautiful thing is, I think that if Michelle and I sat down with some of you and just listened to what's going on in your life and what you're doing, you would also tell stories about how you can see God working. So I told Michelle one of the things we're very grateful for in doing this with y'all is we don't feel like we're teaching, we feel like we're sharing. It's just more of a collective, kingdom work. So that's all we have to say. But are there questions, comments? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I had a question where it's a really good way to implement the problem that we see in Revelation when it's talking about the church is like all head, no heart, right? Mm-hmm. So what if it's the reverse problem, all heart, no head?
Totally.
Is it the same process then?
Well, so like Michelle mentioned that. She said you might have someone who's like incredibly emotionally mature, but they don't have any knowledge,
And so for me, like when that kind of thing happens, I'm like, well, why did you react that way? I'll ask the question. And they're like, I don't know, that's just how I always react. I'm like, well, let's look at it scripturally. Yeah. Actually, there's precedent here scripturally why you react that way. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. and then we'll get to a place where they'll do it again, and I'll go, hey, go find that, and then come show me, and then let's go tell so and so. And so we're building up the spiritual chops, the biblical knowledge to be able to match what they already know. And like the example I gave of that woman, that's exactly what she needed. She needed me to connect the dots for her because she knew the scripture, and she could react to some people emotionally mature, but not her family. And she was burning bridges with her kids because of the way she was emotionally immature there. And so I needed to connect the dots for her, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, no, I did not do that well," but she was mature enough to be able to hear that too.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, the confusion comes in. Like they have to know. They just come in and it's that person. You're like, go do it. They have no scriptural knowledge, and so they're like, well, I just felt like I should tell the person that, and there's no scriptural backing to it. So they all of a sudden are all like doing heresies, and you're like,
oh, they're gonna trip, yeah.
Yeah, right.
We're like, you gotta like break this, like.
Well, so what? You got to rein them in.
Yeah.
You don't they're like, hey, I'm ready to go. You're like,
actually.
How about this? Can we go together?
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is you go together and then you debrief it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you're like, hey, this is why I said this.
Yeah.
And this is why we're going to move in this direction instead of going, where do you think we should go? And then they're going to go, oh, we should definitely do this. You're like, actually, if we look at scripture, this is why we're going to do it this way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say you had a really big goal of having your church, the people in it, doing things, handling situations in a healthy way, going to each other, practicing forgiveness, not gossiping. Like, what's the biggest one or two things that you would recommend to start, getting? Would it be like taking them through small group material of emotionally healthy spirituality?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where would you start?
So, fruit. Who's producing fruit? First, find the people. Who are you taking that? The first thing I would ask is, who are you taking those? Who have you chosen to do that with? That's important. So, if the big goal is we're going to take the church, we want the church to be this, the reality is that's going to start with a microcosm of the church with some key people. So, identify who those people are that are already. I would say disciple-making movements would call those people of peace, but you can already see fruit and you can already see the Spirit is working, so their hearts are open and they're willing. Then with those people, and I don't think there'll be a lot of them, there shouldn't be a lot of them, with those people, that's where you dig into things like, some of these materials. You can do a book study. You can actually, hey, as a group, can we read this? Can we get into this, right? And start to talk through what that would look like for our church to be this kind of church. That starts small.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it with some of, I call them the mover and shakers in the church. You guys know who the people of influence are within the church. They're the cool kids. And so if I've got a pocket of people that I'm concerned about, then I'm going to find the person of peace or the cool kid that's in the group that's kind of the ringleader, for lack of a better word. And then I'm going to start trying to disciple her and trying to get those principles deep within her. And then it's going to start to spread to the people that she has influence over. Then I'm going to talk to my husband, or I'm going to talk to JP, or something. They're going to do it. Yeah.
And in Uganda, when we turned the ship, there were 300 churches that are a part of our network that had been planted, and they were all educational-based churches that were really struggling. And we realized that we wanted to start talking more about what it means to be emotionally, spiritually healthy with life-on-life disciple making. Out of 300 churches, we picked 12 guys and did a 2-year cohort with them to try to do this. So start small to go big. Any other questions? Yeah.
Speaks to the conversation of setting boundaries, knowing when God has called you and when you're acting out of your own will. Kind of in that realm, how many disciples reasonably can you have at a point in time? And how does this play into also having a family that you're discipling, having your own kids?
Yeah.
Because they take up time.
Totally.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm sure this will change with seasons.
Well, it does. It changes with seasons, and it changes with intensity, right? So one of the things I'll try to do every 6 months, maybe a year, is the Lord and I will have a chat about the 3 and the 12, right? And I'll go, okay, well, when my kids were in the house, they were there, and they took my top spots, right? And so then I could go, okay, well, who is it that you are calling me to in this season? Who else? And then prioritized it. Well, if we had big initiatives going on in the church, my number had to be lower because I was going to be focused on some other things. But I made sure I was really looking at who are the leaders that are going to lead. And so I am looking for young adult to parent that I can move up to grandparent. And it is honestly kind of more fun to deal with a child that you can watch move and they do cool things and you're watching them start to walk and then you watch them ride a bike and then you know what I mean? It's kind of fun, right? But I am full-time ministry. I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. And so I'm looking for those, and then we're going to move them to grandparent. And then they stay in my outer ring so that they're not still in the inner ring, that it's not a contact, a few times a week through text or phone calls. It's, once a quarter we're getting together, that kind of thing. But I do think it's really good to actually sit down with the Lord in a prayer time and ask him, because he may put some names on your radar that you're like, wait, what? Like, oh, okay. And then you have coffee and you're like, well, that was valuable. And they just weren't even on your radar, but the Holy Spirit will show you.
And so you kind of have that conversation about every 6 months or so.
Yeah. And some people, even if the Lord does put them on my mind to invest in, and I invest in them for a few months and I'm not seeing any movement, then I'm going to need to cut bait and I'm going to need to move somebody else into that slot. Now, what I'll do is I'll try to see if I can move them someplace else, like into a group situation or, something else that they're being fed into. It just may be a slower process for them, and that's okay. But the reality is I only have so much bandwidth, and I need to build leaders. And so, yeah. And then I'll teach that same thing. Then I'll teach that to the people that are really the elders' wives leaders. I'm going to teach that same principle to them so that they can also do that.
So for Bobby, will talk to me, and he'll make sure, we're sharpening each other, and he'll say, hey, we could at certain levels of ministry as ministers, we could get, instead of helping to multiply and be able to do more of a larger shepherding role, we could be just doing individuals, and then we wouldn't be doing that, and that wouldn't be good. So he and I talk about, even recently, he was like, hey, I heard that you have made a decision to one-on-one disciple this guy. That's really good because he needs that. So it's that discernment of I know you're doing these other things, but this person needs you in this season.
I also make sure on my list I have the people that I'm mutual with. So his wife, Jill, we are in a mutual relationship. So I'm feeding into her. She's feeding into me. We're she's not taking anything from me. And so I make sure I've got several people on my little short list that are actually also feeding into me.
Do you verbalize that with them? I mean, are you sitting there going, okay, you're my person that I'm on equal level with?
Yeah. Because if they are on equal with me, they get it. They do. And they know I need it. And so, yeah. We call each other our shepherdoodles. They're just our companion animals, And so that's what we call each other, yeah.
And then do you also verbalize it with the people you're discipling? And you
most of the time.
When you cut bait? You're like,
you're
a slacker.
Hey, so that's a great
question.
That's a great question, because I've had the conversations with people where I say I'm very real with them and loving. They're resistant, I can tell, and they just don't want to do it. And what I say to them is I love you, but this is how you're coming across, and I don't think you would argue with me. I also have some other people over here that would want to meet with me, and I'm going to go meet with them. I'm here for you if you decide otherwise. But right now, I think we're putting this on pause until you can say, this is what I want to do.
And when I first meet with them, I'll go, I'm not going to drag you anywhere. I'm going to walk beside you. I'll hold a lantern in front of the path, but I'm not going to drag you. And if you want to be dragged, then we need to find somebody else.
Because by the way, have you ever tried to drag someone into discipling?
We've all done it. I mean,
it's like pushing a boulder uphill is going to roll over you.
Yeah, for sure.
So
what if that's a
my
step?
disciple
Been there, done that, yeah.
Sorry.
The person that discipled me wanted to throw me into disciple making right away.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need some time to absorb it all first. I don't know if I said those words exactly, but I told him, I felt like being hounded.
Yeah.
I finally had to tell him, it's like, you need to step back and remember.
Yeah.
God do his part.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
You've done your part.
That's right.
Now
Yeah.
it's time for my part.
Yep.
Or whatever. But I
And that
don't
goes
want-
back to that church
If I get
hurt.
into
Yeah.
this, I'm gonna feel like I'm doing it to make you happy.
Right.
Then you
Right.
felt like a cog in the machine
Yeah.
to build a kingdom that didn't feel like God's kingdom. It might have been how many disciples he could make.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Real Life Theology podcast. Coming up next, we are starting a series on discipling through sermon-based small groups.